Hello. Hello and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. It's daytime, 5:42 a.m. It's cloudy and it might rain today. Hopefully it will. Need it. It's daytime. Okay, all right. Here's what we're going to taste today. Seagram's VO. Now, I can get no official information on when this came out onto the market. There's different websites, and they'll write stories about it. Oh, they wanted to develop a Canadian export to the United States and all this stuff. Make like a specialty blended Canadian whiskey. But I haven't seen anything official, and they don't really cite any sources when they write these articles. But like their source might be a different article that doesn't cite sources. The trademark for the United States government was issued in 1934 now, so it could have gone on the market in Canada, and this is plausible, in 1913, like the articles are saying, and then it was never sent here until after Prohibition, 1934. So that makes sense. But it doesn't matter. It's a long time ago, and it's aged at least 3 years. I don't know how long. It just says product of Canada imported by the VO Distilling Company, Norwalk, us Diageo. They started, now Seagram started in 1857. They went out of business in the year 2000, and their assets were bought up by Diageo, Sazerac, and Pernod Ricard and other people. Okay. It just says Seagram's VO. Doesn't say, it says Canadian whiskey, a blend. Got that nice matte finish. It's kind of the updated label. You look, they have older labels with a little different setup, but it's kind of the same as it's always been. 80 proof. Okay, VO. Now, I have done a solo review of VO, and I found it was rather dull, so I didn't think it tasted bad. There was nothing awful or unpleasant about it. It just didn't have much character. It was just dull. To be fair, the website for the company, Diageo, thebar.com, they talk about VO, and they say this should be, what do they say? I can't give you the direct quote, but it's like VO works best as a mixer. I mean, they're telling you, well, this is kind of bland, so you probably want to mix it. Well, okay, if the company is designing a liquor, a whiskey, to be a mixer and not to have a whole lot of flavor, you can't sit there and say, well, that thing's faulty. It doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. Yeah, well, it's not designed to, so you gotta, I think you have to be careful going after something that is designed to be what it is, like saying, well, this light beer is so light. The light beer is so light. Well, that's what it is. It's a light beer. It's not supposed to be heavy. Canadian Limited. 1972 introduction for this one from Fleischmann's Distilling. Well, Fleischmann's was bought out by Sazerac, so there's no Fleischmann's anymore. It says Fleischmann's, Owensboro, Kentucky, but it says Sazerac. It's bottled in the United States. The Limited. So now this one just says imported by. Imported. It doesn't say anything about bottled in the U.S. So I might have to update my description down below. I don't think it is. I don't think it is bottled here. I think it's just coming across the border in bottles. So, okay, interesting. Little mistake there. All right. Because usually it'll say, you know, well, they actually have to say it. Give these designations, you see. So, okay, all right. Now, where is the distillery in Canada that Diageo uses? This I do not know. And I don't know where the Limited comes from. They don't say. Amber and more gold. So more amber, more gold. The Limited, I think this is Limited. Yeah, is darker. It says with natural flavors, which can be, I was reading the Canadian government website, I know I said government, the government website. And they were talking about the regulations, which aren't too strict. I mean, they're strict in the sense that you have to follow them, but they're not too narrow. They give you a lot of leeway. So you can add rum, you can add brandy, you can add bourbon to these Canadian whiskey blends. You can add caramel color. As long as they're aged 3 years in a small barrel, I think it's like 700 milliliter barrel. 700 liter, I'm sorry. I don't know, something like that. You know, regular whiskey barrel, whatever the size is. For 3 years, and then the additives are aged at least 2 years. So it has to be brandy that's aged 2 years. Well, that's a very young brandy, or you know, bourbon could be, has to be a 2-year bourbon. Unless it's wine, which they don't have a requirement for aging on the wine. What time is it over there? It says Shadow 562. It's 5:48 a.m. Okay, so both of these could be flavored with those components, but it has to be flavored with a distilled spirit. That's what it says on the website, distilled spirit. So the guy that told me plum wine, he probably was right. Okay, I just needed some verification. Well, I got it now. And it can't be over 9.09. I think it's 9.09% additives. That's for export. Now, if you read the regulations carefully, if it's sold within Canada and not sold outside the country, it can be even higher. It could be way higher. You know, conceivably it could be 25% brandy. But the problem there is they say it has to taste and it has to have the aroma and flavor of what is generally associated with Canadian whiskey. I don't know how you would quantify that. That's the same law for the United States. Whiskey has to taste and smell like what people generally associate with whiskey. All right, so you can't make whiskey that smells like rum. You can't make whiskey that smells like vodka. Although if you get some of those blended whiskeys, they kind of, vodka, I know the vodka doesn't have much aroma. It has some smell, but they come kind of close to that neutral smell. But this one here is pungent in the nose in the sense it's got a full bore alcohol burn in the nose. You're getting the full 80 proof. It's like, whoa, grain alcohol, baby. And it's sort of a stark sensation, which is telling me VO, 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 because Seagram VO has that. Now, VO is about $15 a bottle around here. That's the typical price. But you can always get these coupons, or you can oftentimes get the coupons where it'd be $3 off. Of course, you got to mail it in, wait 4 weeks to get it. Usually it comes in 2 weeks. A lot of people aren't going to take the 5 minutes to fill out the little card and mail it in, so they just don't get the money back. But if they're telling me they're going to give me $7 if I buy 2 bottles, I'm going to mail in the little card and spend 50 cents on a stamp and get the $7. Now, that's me, but I mean, that doesn't take much effort. Well, I can tell you already what these are. This has that fruity wine, sugar, rum, cake. Now, I understand why they say drizzled rum cake, because it's probably rum that they're using. This is the limited, and that's the VO. I mean, there's no... I know I'm not going to lose it. I'm trying. I know there's a shade difference in the color, so I don't want to glance too much. But I'm not going to lose. I knew this was going to be the case. I just knew. I said, you're never going to mix up VO with this other stuff. I don't think VO has a whole lot of additives. Like, I think it's just mainly corn, rye, and barley malt. And I think the VO is very close to the American blended whiskeys in its taste profile. I noticed something about the Canadian website. They didn't talk about charred barrels. They just say barrels. I distinctly remember that. I mean, you could look it up too, but so they didn't say anything about it has to be charred barrels, but they probably are charred because they're probably used bourbon barrels. I bet you 99% of what they're using is used bourbon barrels. Give it a little flavor. I heard in Scotland, well, they told us that at Jack Daniels, they used those barrels for 100 years. Used Jack Daniels barrels. Yeah. Taste. Oh, yeah. It's a real stark, sharp alcohol burn with wood, like toothpick wood, not charred wood, but just like wood, like whoa. They're probably utilizing used Bullitt barrels because Bullitt is coming from Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and that has an association with Seagrams, so it wouldn't make sense. Some vanilla, some nectar, but it's pretty stark. Before I buy a crap beer, I usually watch your reviews. Well, thank you. I appreciate you watching. I do appreciate your support. So this one has that toothpick wood. If you're looking for deep char and that bourbon corn thing, no. But if you've had blended whiskey like Kessler's or Beam's 8-Star or Seagram 7 Crown, then that is going to be similar to those. So it's a Canadian whiskey, but it has American attributes. I mean, it really doesn't taste like the other Canadian whiskey. Now, the Seagram's VO Gold that I'll try to do later in the week, maybe like next weekend, that's going to be unique because it's aged 8 years. So it really picks up a lot of character. And it's about $25 a bottle. You can find sales. Okay. It's been discontinued as of 2017, but there's so much backstock of VO Gold, it might be on the market for 10 more years. Yeah, I mean, you get the whiskey twang, of course. It tastes like whiskey. You know, that tastes like that little twangy, vanilla-y, woody thing. But this one has the flavorings. Like it could be rum, but to me, it like somebody said plum wine, and it has that plum, that fruit thing. Some wood, some nectar, honeysuckle, dried flowers, and all of these things. But I can see why Canadian Limited is one of the top 10 best-selling Canadian whiskeys. It does have a pleasant flavor, and golly, for $7.42 a bottle, I would buy it every time if I was looking to buy Canadian whiskey all the time, which I'm not doing. Looking to do. And if you looked at my cabinet, you'd see why. So that's that, and this one. It's just. Straightforward, standardized whiskey. That might appeal to you. You may not like the flavor. You might say, oh, no, I don't like all those flavors. Those are odd additive flavors. And I don't mean chemical added. You know what I mean? I don't mean artificial flavoring. They don't have that. But you might prefer the more standard, like whiskey. If you're from the United States, you know that taste. You probably know, oh, yeah, I've been drinking whiskey. It tastes like that. Like that, yeah. Which one's better? Well, I don't know how this limited would go in a mixed drink, but I guess people do it all the time. Give it a lot of flavor. It'd be interesting. Would be interesting. You know, you can forget smokiness, char, and all that. I mean, it's not there. There might be 1% char note, 99% no char note. So you can just write that off. better. It's a tie because they're both well made. They're both quality. They don't taste like trash. It's just a matter of personal preference. Okay, so I can't deduct points in a the burn. Woo. I can't deduct points in a contest because one is different than the other, and it would depend on what you prefer. That wouldn't make any sense. It'd be like saying, what's better, Miller High Life or Budweiser? Well, it's a tie. I mean, they're both designed for the same general purpose. And if you want that more bready thing, then you get Miller, you know, yeasty bready. If you want the more crisp and kind of sleek flavor with that rice, that verdant, which is raw rice, by the way, living rice, well, then you would go to Budweiser. But they're both kind of like similar in quality, so it would just be a personal preference issue. Now, you say, yeah, but that would make price come into play. Yes, it would, because let's just assume you don't care. Like you like both of them. You say, well, they're both fine. These are fine to me. Kind of like I'm saying, they're equally good. I don't see anyone that one is better than the other. They might even be come from the same distillery in Canada, for all I know. Well, then of course you would shop price. I mean, there would be no doubt. I mean, I'm $7.42 a bottle, but it does have a lot of sediment in it. I mean, if you want a cloudy whiskey with a lot of chunks that looks like, I don't know what it looks like. It looks like some kind of weird white little chips, like little pieces of cotton that somebody pull up. Might bother you. The Seagrams, I can't say. It's a dark brown bottle, but you can kind of see the whiskey. It looks clear. I'm seeing little bits, but that's the glass. On the other side, no, it's clear. So it's up to you. What would you rather pay, $7.42 or $15.42? I know which one I'd rather pay. So it's a tie on quality. It's a tie on preference, but I win. I won on the taste challenge. I was able to tell them apart, which is what I figured all along. I never thought I would mix up Canadian Limited with Seagram's VO. They do not taste alike at all, except that they taste like whiskey, a type of whiskey, but you would never mix these two up. I cannot see that happening. It'd be like mixing up radishes with spinach. You say, well, they're both vegetable matter. Yeah, but how would you mix them? Did you ever finish your Redemption High Rye bourbon? Oh, yes, I did. Thankfully, I was not impressed with that. $23 a bottle, and that was as dull as doggone Kentucky Gold. Yeah, it had a little more rye, but it did not have much depth of flavor. So Redemption High Rye was not too impressive. After all, it's only aged 1 year, so it doesn't have a chance to get much past the moonshine stage, except that the age in the barrel gives it some red color, the char, because they got that thick alligator char, so that's what gives it the color. But beyond that, it's not too good. All right, thanks for watching this video production. I'm off.